6.2 Technical Model, Charlotte Wales. A technical model is a model used in sport to assess sporting performance. The main way we determine the technical model is by the way it explains a technique, which is by words rather than numbers. It's understanding how you want an athlete to move, what you want them to look like, and what positions you want them to hit. This analysis is qualitative data, as it looks at the qualities of the movement using verbal descriptions. One way of producing this technical model would be to use an elite-level athlete-based approach. The easiest way to describe it would be to take a successful athlete in your chosen sport and watch them move over and over again. You can then utilize these players as a technical model of how you wish to train your own athlete to look like. First of all, you need to understand positional recognition, meaning that you can understand different positions throughout the play or specific mood. Often by watching players' position, you can spot differences between them and your player, so you can understand where improvements need to be made. Another key technique would be an athlete used for comparison. Using today's technology, we can put videos side by side of successful professionals next to training athletes and comparing their movements at different positions where they are good, weak, or maybe lacking. You can then create specific training in order to improve. Now, there's a great starting point, as when you establish a technical model, you can start to create technical epiphanies over and over. Building small technical models allows to build a big technical goal later on in an athlete's career. Another way of creating a technical model will be to look at literature-based information. You can find many types of coaching manuals and various coaching courses that teach a coach how to instruct their athletes and explain what an athlete should be doing ideally. Places like the national governing bodies for sport or the national coaching qualification at various levels can provide literature with coaching points on how a skill should be done. There's a variety of literature. Some you may trust more than others, and this is based on what the writer thinks the skill is like. A random coach's blog on the internet will provide you with less reliable data than something released by the national governing body. Therefore, the credibility of the source of literature must be looked at before it is trusted. Technical models can also be measured objectively or subjectively. Objective performances measures are independent of the observer. That means that the measurement is done using something other than the person observing. Subjective measures rely more on the observer than the independent measures. Sports such as dance and gymnastics are more subjective than objective by their measures. By comparing an elite athlete to a training athlete, these measures are purely subjective, as it is measured by spotting similar techniques in the videos. Software programs such as SlowPro and Dartfish can be used to slow down and analyze an athlete's movements and measurements. This type of data is more objective, as the software is analyzing performance rather than it being based on somebody's opinion. Some players use an unorthodox technique which works for them but wouldn't be recommended by coaches or necessarily taught specifically by coaches. The definition of an unorthodox technique is a technique that is very different to how a pro player would play, but they manage to do them with a high level of consistency. During different types of skills within all sports, there are three main phases to a skill. These are the preparation phase, execution phase, and recovery phase. During a preparation phase, an athlete must use certain coaching points to anticipate the movement they are about to complete. In the execution phase, an athlete will complete their chosen skill. After they have completed this, they will go into recovery, where they finish a move and return to the ready position. For example, in netball, when a goal shoot or goal attack is attempting to score the ball into the net, there are three phases they must follow. For preparation, they must make sure both hands are steadily above their head, holding the ball with their fingers spread around the ball in a W shape. Their elbows must be tucked in and their feet must be balanced. When they feel ready, the athlete will enter the execution phase, where they will transfer their weight forward to push the ball. Their arms will extend, followed by their wrists and fingers. As soon as the player has let go of the ball, they will enter the recovery phase, where they prepare to either catch a rebound or block their player, depending on the outcome of the shot. If the athlete continued to stand and wait to see whether the ball went in the net, then they potentially waste valuable time and allow the other team to collect a rebound and go on to shoot. The basketball jump shot is often considered the most important shot in basketball, as it is very difficult to defend against and it allows players to score from a long distance. For elite athletes, this type of shot is complicated, so it becomes like a second nature to them. During a basketball jump shot, just like the netball skill, there are three main phases. The preparation phase is where an athlete will align the middle of their body to the hoop so that their gaze, the ball, and the front of the hoop are in a straight line. Vickers 2007. The skill cues often presented in the preparation phase of this skill are toes pointing toward the target, favoured foot slightly in front of the non-favoured foot, knees bent, shooting hands behind the ball, supporting hand on the side of the ball, elbows under the ball, eyes focused on the front of the rim. During the execution phase, the whole body will be in full motion and muscle groups are working simultaneously. The skill cues then executed are extension of the legs to provide power and execute a vertical jump, leaving the ground and landing on the same spot on the balls of the feet in a bouncing action for a 2 count, elbows at 90 degrees pointing at the basket, shooting hand under the ball, arms extended upwards, and the ball is released before the maximum height of jump. The recovery phase is then operated where the ball is released and the movements must be followed through in order to make sure the shot goes in the hoop. The order of this recovery phase tends to be follow-through position is held with the middle 3 fingers directed at the target until the ball hits the rim. The follow-through position of arms is held, usually for 2 counts, until the ball hits the rim. The ball travels with a back spin. There are many different ways of collecting data, which has changed massively over time because of the development of new technology and new ways of thinking. This has resulted in people's performances improving over time, which is why athletes keep getting faster. The better development of mobile phones and sporting equipment has also allowed us to record athletes, review their techniques, and figure out why they work so well. There are many different softwares that can be used, such as Coach's Eye and SlowPro. This software makes it easy to look at where athletes' mistakes were made and where improvements can be made, as well as what works for them. SlowPro allows the coaches and biomechanists to look at athletes' techniques and at different stages, and it allows them to slow down the footage in order to collect this data. This is often difficult to do with the naked eye. People's shots or swings are too fast to be able to judge. Coach's Eye does a very similar thing and helps coaches to identify the perfect models in order to show other people to help them learn and improve. If a coach has a perfect model, they can use this data and information online to share with other coaches. This can then be collected from documents, YouTube videos, and official websites. Obviously, the original method of data collection was watching performances live. This is often a good way coaches can immediately see what type of effect their players are having. Coaches will always watch on the sideline of a player's performance to give them tips to improve mid-game. Although this isn't a long-term fix to someone's technique, it can help them on the spot. Coaches will often take video footage from various angles of their players. Some people can't afford the various technology used by elite performers. However, being able to video something on your phone and look at it from different angles, or even just to slow it down, can still help improve somebody's technique. This slide shows a side-by-side of an elite athlete basketball player compared to my performer, who is of a novice beginner level. You can see that although her shot was successful, her technique wasn't necessarily perfect. In the preparation phase, the elite athlete will make sure that they have completed many steps in order to have the best chance at shooting the ball into the hoop. The player in the technical model meets some of these requirements. She does eventually make the shot, however this could be down to a lucky angle and the fact that it wasn't in a game situation, meaning there was little to no players watching and nobody defending. If she continued with this poor technique, she wouldn't necessarily make consistent shots, which if she's part of the team could mean losing valuable points. Similar to the elite athlete, her knees are bent correctly, meaning that she will gain the right amount of power in her legs, allowing her to, in the next stage, propel the ball forward. If her legs were bent too much, she may use too much power or lose control altogether. The elite athlete has their elbows tucked into their body with the ends of their elbows facing forward. This allows them to direct their arms forward where the ball will be able to follow through in the correct direction. Ellie's elbows are stuck out slightly, meaning that she has less control over the ball, and it could potentially end up in a place that she doesn't want it to go. For example, too high or too low. For both the elite athlete and my athlete, their feet are shoulder width apart, allowing them correct amount of balance so that they have control over their bodies and the ball. Both of the players' eyes are on the basket in front rather than on the ball, so that they can see exactly where they're aiming to and the progression line of the ball. The elite players' hand placements on the ball lie so that the ball is firmly in one hand but not in their palms and is just guided and balanced by their other hand. This allows them power over the ball as well as a good sense of direction and protection from other players. My athlete's hand placement is slightly different, as it appears she has more of a W grip on the ball. However, this is how netball players are taught to shoot. Potentially this is where she picked up and learnt this technique, and she's carried it over to basketball. This technique is allowed, however it puts her in a more vulnerable position, as both of her hands are raised, as other players have the opportunity to steal the ball. If she happens to be one hand dominant and both of her hands are placed on the ball, it could cause her to send the ball veering slightly to one side. A technique often used by coaches to improve this is using a coin and putting it between the side of a player's thumb and the side of their first finger to stop the players from spreading their fingers into this W shape and to keep the ball balanced in their palms. In the execution phase, the player releases the ball they're holding to aim for the basket. The player in the technical model will also get to release the ball. However, if they haven't followed the same steps as the elite player, then their accuracy may not be as good and their shots may not be as consistent and concise. Both the elite player and my athlete have their legs extended for the shot, showing that the power is moved through their legs and they are extending in prep for the shot. The elite performer is clearly in the follow-through position, which is described as the last part of your shot. It is generally defined as the extension of your arm to shoot the ball and the wrist's motion in releasing the ball. My performer does follow her arms through with the ball, however she dips one arm down much faster than the other, potentially causing the ball to veer off to one side of the hoop, harming her shot. Like in the preparation phase, the player's elbows should be facing forward, but now this should be bent and raised, as seen by the elite player in this picture. My athlete's elbow positioning isn't very accurate, as her elbows don't face forward, and both arms are at different positions. They are both raised to allow height for the ball, however, her release of the ball won't be very concise or accurate. Although a jump is not necessary during a basketball shot, most elite performers will use one. This is so that their shot raises the starting position of the ball, such that it is more likely to clear defending players. Obviously, this is only super important during a game situation, but if players get used to this jump regularly, then they can use it more comfortably during a game. My athlete chooses not to jump in her shot and keeps a lower base. For a beginner, this is far more stable and helpful for learning. As she was coached, defenders will be introduced, and therefore the jump should also be introduced to help. Both players' bodies are extended during this phase. This helps their shot travel further through the air, as well as using this method to stop their upper body from twisting when they take shots when they are off balance or their feet are not aligned properly.